Hey everyone, in this video we're going to take a look at how to assemble the RAM-Tab-Lock series of locking tablet cradles. There are some different tab lock cradles available. We're going to demonstrate this today with the RAM-HOL-TABL-LG. This particular cradle comes with two different sets of support cups down here in the corner. These are going to hold our tablet. Not all of the locking cradles come with multiple sets. Many are just going to come with one. This particular cradle comes with two. Because we're mounting an iPad, we are going to use this larger set of support cups. So what we're going to do in time is get our cradle assembled here. One of these support cups is going to go up here at the top of our spine. The other one is going to go down here at the bottom, and then we can lock our tablet in place. There is the lock down there at the bottom. There are the included keys for the lock. We're going to start by attaching a 1-inch ball to the back of our cradle. In order to do this, here's what you're going to need. We have the main spine for our locking cradle, and we have some hardware. We have two nuts. There's actually two sets of nuts that come with the tab lock cradles. This is the larger of the two sets, and it also has that light color there in the middle. So two nuts. We have the two longest screws in the hardware pack. Then we have these two sort of medium-sized self-tapping screws. Here's the plate we're going to attach to the back of the cradle. This is a RAM-B-202 round plate with a 1-inch B-size ball. This plate is going to line up with the hole pattern on the back of our cradle, and we're going to attach it, and then we can use this with other 1-inch B-size ball components. This plate is not included with the purchase of a tab lock cradle. You have to purchase this plate separately, or you can purchase it as part of a bundle, but the cradle does come with hardware to attach this plate to the back. Now we have this locking mechanism over here on the cradle, and there's this lever here that controls it. So we can close it up, and then if we don't have it locked with our key, we can just twist the lock down here, and that's going to release it again. In order to install our plate on the back of the cradle, you do want to make sure that the locking mechanism is closed. If you look right in there underneath my two fingers, there's two holes in there, and they're actually hex-shaped openings. That's where the two nuts are going to go. So we can start by taking one of the nuts, dropping it in there, and I'm going to hold that in place with my finger for a second while I flip this over, and I'm going to get the plate positioned on the back of the cradle. Now the plate does have to be positioned in such a certain way so that all the holes line up. What I would recommend looking for is up here in the corner you have a little RAM logo, and you want that to point more or less up towards this lever in the top corner of the cradle. Once you have it positioned like that, you can just eyeball it and see how the holes line up, and then you can get it positioned correctly. Once you have the holes lined up, you can take one of the longer screws, drop that in, and I'm just going to get that threaded into the nut by hand. And now I am going to repeat the process with the other nut. You can drop that in, get it into the hex-shaped opening, hold it in place, and get the other screw started by hand. Now I can take my screwdriver and just get both of those tightened up all the way. And that is what that looks like. We have those two screws right there. Now there are two more screws that you need to attach to this plate. There is one right there, and the other one is right there. So it's not going to be perfectly symmetrical. It is a little off center, but we're going to use these two remaining screws for that. These are self-tapping screws, so this is going to cut into the plastic. So again, you're going to take your screwdriver, you're going to get these two remaining screws attached to the back of your cradle. Next, we're going to take one of our support cups and we're going to attach it to the bottom of the spine of the locking cradle. I showed you before how to close the locking mechanism. Now we're going to open it back up again just by twisting this knob here on the side. We're going to take our support cup. We're going to get this centered on the base of the spine. You'll be able to tell when it's in the right place. You can see through those holes from one side to the other, and there are also some grooves that it will catch in. There are 10 tiny screws that come with your hardware pack that look like this, and each support cup has 5 holes in it. So to start, we'll just take one screw, and I'm going to put in the very center one here. Get that in place, and then I can take my screwdriver and I can get that tightened up all the way. So that's what that first one looks like. Now for this first support cup, you're just going to repeat this 4 more times with 4 more screws. Now you're going to take the other support cup, this T-shaped component, and these 5 remaining screws, and you're going to attach this to the base of the T-shaped part. So just as before, you want to make sure it's centered, lined up. You can see through the holes from one side to the other. You're going to take each of these 5 screws, your screwdriver, and get one part attached onto the other. From here, we just need to take these 2 pieces and join them together. Here's the hardware we're going to need for this. I told you earlier that we had 2 sets of nuts in the hardware pack. This is the one remaining set. And then we're going to use these 2 screws that go with them. And they have a different look to them than the self-tapping screws that we were using earlier. So we're just going to take this T-shaped piece and slide that right into the spine like so. The nuts are going to go into that slot right there, one on each side, and then we'll get the screws in from the other side. So all you need to do is get the nut in there. I'll hold that in place for a second, flip that over, and then I can get the screw started from the other side. Now, this is very important because in this step, when you attach the screws to the nuts, you want it to stay loose. You don't want it to be a tight fit. You don't want it to be tightened up all the way because we are going to make some adjustments to this in a moment. So that is the first one attached. There it is right there. And now you can just repeat the process with the remaining nut and screw. Now we're going to need to make some adjustments to our cradle based on the tablet that we are using. We want to make sure to start with our tablet cradle locked. Now, flip it back over again. You can take your tablet and get it in there because we're going to have to take some measurements. Here's my Apple iPad, so I can drop this in. This part over here is still going to move around. This is the screw and the nut that we left loose on the last step. So this is going to move, but you want to get your tablet into the cradle. You want to hold it closed as shut as you can. You want it to be the minimum distance between each of these support cups because if it's too loose, if they're too far apart, it's not going to hold your tablet correctly. Now, still holding it closed, you're going to flip it over to the other side. And from here, you're going to need to get out your measuring tape because you need to measure the space between the end of the spine and the beginning of the support cup. So you're going to measure the space right in there, make sure that it is closed as far as it can be. I've measured this already, so for this tablet, I know that we have 1.5 inches of space right here. That's going to change based on the size of your tablet. A larger tablet, that distance is going to be greater. A smaller tablet, it's going to be smaller. So I know this is 1.5 inches. I can take my tablet out of my cradle. I'm going to put this off to the side. Flip it over again. I'm going to unlock the mechanism. And now, looking over here, I need to have the same distance that I just measured between the top of that slide right there and the bottom of the support cup. So this will move around. I just did my measurement of 1.5 inches. I need to make sure I have the same distance between that part right there, the top of the slide, and the bottom of the support cup. So I will get out my tape measure. I will get that as close to 1.5 inches as I can. Get that centered as best I can do here. You're not always going to get this right on the first try. You can make adjustments later. You can go back and make it further apart or closer together. So this is just a first effort. Now I'm going to hold this in place. I don't want this support cup to move at all. So I'm going to hold this in place. I'm going to flip it over, and now I can take my screwdriver and the screw and the nut that we put in on the last step, we're going to tighten those up all the way now and fix the positioning of the tablet cradle. Fix it so that it is just one size. So get your screwdriver, tighten up one, tighten up the other, and we will get out our iPad again. We'll give it a shot, see how we did. Want to make sure right now this is unlocked, because we're going to put our tablet in and we're going to lock it. So I'll drop it in one side, try and lock this and see how it fits. And that's actually a pretty good fit. It could stand to be just a hair tighter, but I can go back and I can correct that if I want. I can make it a little bit tighter, a little bit closer between these 2 support cups. So for now, we're going to take our tablet out of the cradle, put that off to the side, and we can move on to the next step. Our final step of assembly is to take this flat plate and we're going to attach this to the spine of the cradle. So we have 4 holes here in the spine. Those are going to line up with the 4 pegs on the back of this plate. You can flip it over to the other side. You do want to make sure that this is locked or you will not be able to get to one of those screw holes. But from here, you can just drop the screws in. You can get out your screwdriver and get all 4 of these tightened up all the way. Our tab lock cradle is now 100% assembled and ready to use. So we can take our Apple iPad or whatever tablet you're going to be using, drop that into the cradle, hit the lever in back to lock it, and I have a nice secure fit for my tablet. I still have our lock over here on the side, so for an added level of security, I can take my key, get that locked up all the way, and now I'm not going to be able to open this unless I have that set of keys. We still have our 1-inch B-size ball on the back of the cradle, so I can use this with other RAM mounts 1-inch B-size ball components. Ordinarily, you would not use a locking cradle with a suction cup, but for now we'll just get this down on the table here. I can get a RAM mount's arm onto this base. I actually have a standard length B-socket arm, and I've added a locking knob to it, which is an additional accessory that you can add. Again, that's just another level of security we can add in here. So I can get this onto the base. I can get the ball on the back of the cradle into the open socket of the arm, make adjustments to it, position it wherever I want, and then I can just tighten up the knob on the side of the arm when I am happy with it. Because I am using a locking knob on the side of the arm, then when it's all tightened up, I can lock that knob up, and I have here a nice secure mount. So that is a quick look at how to assemble the RAM-Mounts Tab Lock series of locking tablet cradles.